The brothers WISP. The brothers WISP, brothers WISP. The brothers WISP. The brothers. You're now listening to Greg.
Hey everybody, this is Greg with the Brothers WISP number 139, coming from Texas, or is this Seattle, Washington? You can't tell. We both have the same climates. No way, I take that back. Those guys are boiling up there, and it's like a balmy 85 here. It's not too bad. So role reversal. I don't know. It's raining all the time here, and it's hot as all get out up there. Ooh, I had to pivot really quick. Almost said a naughty word. But with us today, we have Mikey Hammett from Chicagoland.
Hey, and we've had a lot of rain here too recently. One of my fiber guys jokingly put in a requisition for a boat so that he could continue doing the fiber pulling and splicing.
Oh yeah, God, that's gotta suck. Trying to bore or trench or any of that stuff in this slop. I can't imagine it.
Yeah.
I'm assuming construction pretty much just stopped. Well, I don't know. Boring guys. I mean, they kind of just, oh, well, I mean, it depends on where they're at. Like, I'm used to seeing them bore in the city. So they're, their rigs usually sitting on concrete or something. So that'd probably be fine. But I'm assuming most people doing that stuff are sitting their rigs on dirt. So that's probably not the best time to be doing it.
Yeah. And like, industrial dirt or like, like a road ditch or something where it doesn't really matter. Okay, but like if you're in like a residential area with like manicured lawns and stuff, yeah, you don't really want to be bringing in excavators to drag out your drills because they've just buried themselves in mud.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. You just get that thing just buried down in there, and then you got to wait, a couple of weeks for it to dry up enough to go get it out or whatever. That would suck. Or you could just bring in the tractor, I guess, hook it up. That's what you guys are used to, right?
We have done that before. We've had actually. So I've been watching. I don't remember the actual official name of the show, but it's on Amazon. Jeremy Clarkson from Top Gear and Grand Tour and a bunch of other things. He now has a new show about farming, and it's quite funny because he's a big, bombastic, eccentric, automotive journalist, and he's owned a farm for about 10 years, and now he's actually gonna run it, and so it's hilarious. But one scene, he gets something stuck, an excavator stuck at the bottom of a hill after it's been raining, and there's a whole scene chronicling the recovery of equipment at the bottom of a hill in mud. It's fun. I mean, I've been there, but it's funny to see somebody else going through it.
Mm. So you're so popular at writing about cars and making a show about cars that they decided to do like a reality television show about you. Is that in essence what it is?
Yeah, well, I mean, he has developed quite a following because, I mean, like at one point, Top Gear was the largest, most watched show in the world.
Really?
With an estimated audience of like 350 million viewers.
Like regular television show, I guess?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I mean, Top Gear itself was going for decades, but like he rebooted it in early 2000s on BBC, and then kind of left in a blaze of glory about 5 years ago. And then Amazon picked him up to kind of do the same show, but on Amazon Prime. And then now, like, of course, he brought his co-hosts with him, and then, they've all done their own Amazon spin-offs, and I guess this is, like, Amazon's biggest show. Like, his car show on Amazon was the biggest Amazon show by far when it debuted, and now his farming show is, again, the biggest Amazon show.
So it's just a good person. I've seen him do a couple of things, because I watch a lot of British television, but I can't 100% remember what it was, and I do believe he came off pretty charming.
Yeah, like there's all kind, most of those TV host people, they do all kinds of stuff. He was on, or hosted Who Wants to Be a Millionaire over there for a while. I mean, he has, like, his IMDb has dozens or hundreds of things. I mean, it's, all those hosts just do everything.
Stay busy. Well, there's only like 40 British actors, and you can't have another one until one retires. So They kind of have to do everything. You know, it's in their contract. All right, man. So let's get this stuff out of the way. So we do have a new patron, and I'm willing to bet it's a name that's familiar to most of the folks listening here. This guy really gets around. Jeremy Austin, our resident Alaskan, I guess. I met him at a mom a long time ago. Super nice guy. What is he like? He seems like he should be singing in a folk band, you know, wearing like a like a bow tie and everything. And actually, I think he is really musical. Super nice guy. So it's really cool to have him in there. We have a pre-seam channel fired up now, and he's in there fixing everybody's problems. So if you have any problem with your pre-seam, just go in there and Jeremy will fix it.
Yeah. Yeah, and actually, I think I have met Jeremy more times than I've met you.
Oh, most likely, because I think he goes to all the WISP-paloozas and all that good stuff. And especially now in his role at Preseam, he's definitely going to be doing all that stuff. So he'll be at all the events. So familiar face, man. It's cool when I see kind of those other worlds sort of collide with this one. It's pretty neat. But to become a patron, you go to patreon.com/thebrotherswisp. You toss a couple of bones, and you get access to all the Jeremy Austin that you can handle. You know what's funny is the name Jeremy. I always want to say it like you're covered in germs, Jeremy. But I believe it's Jeremy. But it sounds weird when I say it that way to my ears.
Well, you know, he's in Alaska. You know, it's kind of backwoods type stuff. You know, they get a little Jeremy.
I would imagine. All right. Let's hit some of our sponsors. So, again, like always, brought to you by Sonar, a scalable, intuitive, and comprehensive ISP billing and operational support system. Learn more at Sonar.software. Mikey, you want to do the quick bit?
Sure. Quickbit.com, indoor and outdoor 60 gigahertz kit that's just set it and forget it simple. Crazy feature set for the price with API, deployment tools, solid distance, and up to 8 clients per hub. As of a couple months ago, now with a website you can order from.
That's kwikbit.com. That's COM. Let's see. We also have towercoverage.com. That's Tower Coverage is your RF propagation system to empower your network. Real-time data metrics enable your coverage area, reach your customer base, and more. The industry's best RF propagation mapping system allows website integration for customer sign-up and pre-qualification. Use this data to scientifically plan expansion and help your WISP succeed. Get a free trial today at towercoverage.com. Speaking of tower coverage, that comes from Denny Burgess over at Linktech, and they now have cloud.linktech.net. It's supposed to be a mikrotik control system. I want to say that he said you get 2 free devices, I guess, in perpetuity. I'm not sure. But after that, I think they said they're charging like $6.50 a year per device, which sounds pretty reasonable. He was saying you could do mass configuration push to your kit, I believe, backups, various things like that. So it is so brand new that it just hit the announcement area like 2 days ago. So I haven't talked to anybody that's played with it yet, but I'm willing to bet some folks are going to try it out and reach back out. Since it is a brand new product, I would expect that there is a lot of room for growth in there. So be kind and give detailed feedback to those folks. Because remember, nothing is perfect when it first shows up. So go check it out if you guys have the time and inclination. What do you think about it, Mikey?
I haven't looked at it. Obviously, I don't have time to do the things I'm supposed to be doing, much less looking at new things.
Mm-hmm.
I guess many viewers might notice I probably missed the past like 2 months worth of shows. Busy.
Gas. Mike has a life. Heaven forbid.
But I did see somebody, some banter back and forth about it. Somebody asking about different functionalities and things, and somebody, I don't know if it was somebody with Linktech or just a user, had mentioned that no, it's not like a direct Unimis competitor, like in the use case that was being pitched, they said Unimis would be the better solution. So it's not, I guess there's a Venn diagram probably of overlap. Different things that both platforms do, but I'm sure there's plenty that both platforms do that the other does not.
Yeah. And this is my impression. Again, we love speculating about stuff we have no knowledge of. This is fun.
Sure.
It's
Well,
our imagination hour.
It's easier to get information out of someone if you say something that's wrong, because then they'll correct you. If you ask them for information, they may not tell you. But if you say something wrong, they will correct you.
So you're saying we just go around slandering everybody and wait for them to correct whatever it is we say?
Not necessarily slander. If you say, I think, or I wonder if.
I think that guy's
like
a complete turd. Yeah. Get it? But from my estimation,
in my opinion,
right? The cloud Linktech thing is supposed to be kind of like I'm not saying Fisher Price, but kind of the easy button for administering. Sort of, I think it's more from the administering sort of part that's supposed to be clicky, easy to do. And my understanding is Unimis is more vendor agnostic, right? It's not just mikrotik. The idea is you can back up, but then you can do all of the extra cool features. And Thomas would always scold me because I can never remember enough of the cool features, and he's always adding new ones. I saw they just put out, was it 2.1? And it's got a lot of new features in there. So that's Unimis. Is it .net?
I think so.
Yeah, so you can pop over there and check it out. There are some new cool features, and he's always adding new cool stuff to the blog. So definitely check that stuff out. But that's going to be, the idea of Unimis is it can handle all of your infrastructure. So it is really great at backups and diffs and all that good stuff, but it also does configuration push to that kit. So definitely check that stuff out. Oh, and I woefully haven't kept up with as much of the Unimis stuff as I should. So I feel bad that I can't speak too much about it. Let's see.
One of the new things in 2.1, granted, I wouldn't do this, not because I wouldn't want to, but just because I would time. But one of the cool things they added was the whole thing is it's a change log. What has changed from one version to the other of your configuration. And lots of devices make lots of little changes to your configuration output that are irrelevant. Time and date that the backup was pulled, what the hash is of the current backup, which may or may not include other dynamic things, so on and so on. And, they do a pretty good job about keeping up with things that the system ignores, whether it's they ignore it in the backup period or they ignore it when doing a diff, so on. And one of the new features allows you to specify your own parameters of things that you do or do not want to back up. If there's, some platforms will output dynamic, DHCP leases. And if you don't care about those, then they're just wasting your time. So you can, but someone else may want them. So, Unimis can't ignore all of them. So that lets you, put in your own regex or whatever. And, I don't care about this. So that's one of the new things in 2.1.
Yeah, it's really cool. Yeah, I saw there was some other stuff in there too. I just didn't dig deep enough in there. But yeah, definitely go check that out for you guys that are interested in backup or configuration push stuff. Two cool options to go and kick the tires on. All right, let's talk about ROSv7 version 7. There was a link that somebody put on the Slack to a forum post where there was a mikrotik employee, I guess, maybe getting a little defensive on some stuff and saying, that they don't have to offer up this information. They're just trying to, keep everybody in the loop. And in that, he detailed some stuff, which I thought was pretty interesting, which obviously that's why they put the link in there, because it was pretty interesting stuff. But they're talking about version 7 and its stability. And they were saying that they have a stable version, but it is for the Chateau products only. What are the Chateaus, Mike? Aren't those like the 5G home CPE things?
5G LTE home, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it's, which I think that would then, be the products that LMT is looking for, Latvian Telecom. And it just seems like that's been a lot of the drive on a lot of the V7 stuff is the kind of partnership with them, and I think that's what a lot of this is for.
They also say stable does not mean bug free. All right, it's ready to go into production environment. So that's interesting and promising. I think they said currently the showstopper for stabilizing version 7 is /routing. So it's the routing piece. He also goes on to talk about how people say, well, why don't you just throw more programmers at it? Why don't you put more engineers on it? And his example, which I had never heard before, which was...
I've heard it many times.
You've heard this? He said, I can't bring... What does he say? 9 pregnant women cannot produce 1 baby in a month. Right? So it's just because you add more programmers, which absolutely makes sense, right? If they're unfamiliar with whatever area these programmers are working on, they have to get up to speed, right? They have to follow all the criteria, you know what I mean? So to me, it makes sense because you would lose time just training those guys. So it does seem like it makes more sense to just let those guys buckle down and do what they do best and hopefully get done. I found that interesting. I had never heard it put quite that way, but it makes sense.
Well, and like so many things are produced by such a small group of people. I mean, like, even at Microsoft, Facebook, Google, whatever, it's like, one guy makes this whole thing. And then other people grow onto it and build off of it. And, other people will then attach APIs to it. Or they'll, do a new UI. But initially, this mega hit feature, it's just one guy did it. And then, so, yeah. That's kind of the similar thing here is that, you're only going to have 1 or 2 guys that are doing, the BGP routing stack. Because really, it's like, if you had 15 guys working on it, like, you're just going to spend more time managing the 15 guys to make sure that they're not coding over each other or this or that. And, stick a guy on BGP, stick a guy on routing, stick a guy on integrating the two into the one route table, There's some parallels that you can do there, but yeah, there's only so much you can do before it's just wait.
Yeah, just give it time, be patient. They are actively working on it, and in my estimation, we've seen, hidden inside of the version 7 betas that we've already seen a lot of new product numbers. Now, some of those may never see the light of day, right? It might just be internal things that they're testing and working on. But to me, whenever I see a lot of like brand new hardware, like especially when they're moving to like a whole new CRS train, like from the 300 to maybe a 400 or 500 or whatever it was, to me that says it's probably going to be new hardware chipsets. And so, I would think version 7 would probably work a little bit better on the newer stuff. I mean, you would estimate that it would. So it seems like there would still be a pretty big push to get that stuff out just so that they can move forward with all this new hardware instead of constantly having to try and integrate into the old and then work on the new. It seems like, push, get the new version 7 out so we can concentrate on that. But I don't know nothing about nothing. It just seems like it might make sense.
Yet, I thought it was this post, but I'm not finding it right now. Of course, I'm not reading it word for word. I'm just skimming. But I thought somebody was saying that, that some of these new products are waiting on stable/routing. So it's not like they're just screwing around. Like they already have, new things in the hopper ready to go. And they're waiting for /routing to be done and stable and complete. So that's, there's a big motivator from other aspects as well, not just we, the users, complaining.
I'm sure they want it done just so that everybody will shut up. I'm sure it haunts their dreams. People constantly ask them about when version 7 is going to come out. So, yeah, I'm sure for everybody involved, we're all looking forward to it. All right. So I had kind of, I came up with a solution, and I was just curious. what you thought about this. I ran into a scenario where at my MDU, I lost one of the switches. So it like went offline. So I logged into the core switch and I take a look, because it's one of my edge switches. I logged into the core switch and I just see that there's no power being received, right? So the optic's not seeing anything. I showed the transceiver results and it's just nothing's coming in. So one of my users called in like shortly after I noticed that, and so I'm talking to him and he's like, yeah man, like I'm not able to get anywhere on the internet. I say, oh, so you mean you see your wireless network, you're connected to it, and you're just not able to pass any traffic? And he goes, yeah. And I go, okay, well in my head that means, well, the switch still has power, right? Because I'm PoE powering his Wi-Fi router in his room, and that's how he's seeing it. So it's like, oh, it must still be up. So I'm like, oh crap, either the cable got broke, the optic busted, anything could have happened. And this is the MDU where I had those little brownouts and it kind of lost a couple of optics. I was like, gosh, it could have been anything, right? So I text the manager and I say, hey, was anybody working in this area, right over here, starting at about this time? And the guy replies back, he goes, give me just a minute, let me go take a look or whatever. And then I get a text like 5-10 minutes later, hey, yeah, the breaker was flipped in there, so we just flipped it back on, take a look. And sure enough, my switch comes back online. I see that guy's unit come back up. So that guy obviously was lying to me, and I don't know why. This is like the show House. This is that scenario where he said everybody lies, and it's I don't necessarily think this guy was lying to me. I think he just had no idea what I was saying, and he was just agreeing to whatever it was. But
yep. It was agreed so you don't look dumb.
It was just power. And so I was thinking, well, how do I tell if like a remote IDF loses power in this joint? And so what I've got right now is I've got all of the optics and cables to run redundant links, right? So the secondary SFP plus port, I'm going to bring those back. So I've got a Nexus 3064. So I got tons of ports, 10 gig ports on the inside on that core switch. So I'm just going to have two interfaces going everywhere. And I was thinking I can have my monitoring package just watch the up-down status of those interfaces, right? If I lose both at the same time, it's got to be power, right? But if I just lose one, then, I lost an optic. So I can alert based on that. But I was thinking in a world where I don't have the option to run redundant, or, maybe I don't have the money or whatever happens to be, can you think of a solution where I could tell if power was lost in a little remote IDF? I couldn't think of one other than the redundant port thing.
Well, so there's a variety of things that come to mind. The most obvious one, that there must be a reason why not to do it. A small UPS that plugs into a mikrotik that has the UPS package, and then you watch the UPS status on that mikrotik. Is the UPS, UPS tells you, hey, I'm on battery. Well, you've lost power, and at least then you don't have to have hours and hours of battery, but long enough, say at least 10 minutes for your monitoring tools or your SNMP trap server to then fire off and say, hey, this thing's now on battery.
Yeah, I can't say always, but I almost never put UPSs on those edge switches, because I usually don't really care. Because if like an edge switch loses power, like in IDF 7, then it's highly likely everybody around there lost their power too. So they'll hopefully have some understanding there. I've still gotten phone calls when the power's out at the place, but not like a lot, right? It's like, my Wi-Fi is down on my phone. It's like, yeah, there's no power at the place. Oh, okay. It didn't really occur to them. But I'm not gonna shame those people for that. But yeah, I guess the idea of a UPS and then just something monitoring power, then firing back something or whatever. But yeah, that would be, I would think the extra optic and fiber jumper would be cheaper than doing that. But what if your switch didn't have the additional ports available to you and that was your only option? I guess that would make sense. That would be a good workaround.
Or if you didn't have diverse fiber, if it's in the same cable and a contractor hits the fiber cable,
Hits the trunk
then,
going back. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, then it looks no different. I just checked. I don't know if this particular model works with the mikrotik feature or not, just because I know the feature is old. I don't know if APC's changed things, but they have a new UPS here for $53, 425 VA, so it should be more than enough to keep the switch running for a while. But then another, you know, of course there could be other gotchas, just something.
Yeah.
Another thing I could think of would be you wouldn't, like, on the same power strip or whatever, you could plug in a cheapo mikrotik, you know, map light or something that's broadcasting an SSID, and you have another one somewhere that's just watching for all your SSIDs. And if your switch is down and the map light is down, then you've lost power. Or somebody else is in there screwing with stuff.
Yeah,
you know,
for sure.
Obviously, you can never tell the difference between a loss of power and somebody in the room messing with things.
That just made me remember, I was doing some work with like these fiber guys in town, and I was it in the training? Or maybe it was either in this training or this documentation on Sienna Kit. Oh, I remember I was looking through the documentation. It had this feature called last gasp. So that if it lost utility power or DC or whatever it happens to be, if it lost power source, right, it's still going to function for, you know, some number of, well, some fraction of a second. And so it'll detect that, and then it'll send this last gas message out, like to the monitoring system. Or I think they had something called like One Control or something, I think for the Siennas, like it was the master controller. So it would send out this last gas message to that, like, oh, utility's down. So, you know, just before the switch blinked off into the void, it would actually notify, which I thought was kind of a cool feature.
Yeah, it's all of our zone ONTs have a dying gasp feature where they, you know, when you go check the alarms, you look at, you know, oh, you know, there's no light, there's no this, there's no that. Oh, there's dying gasp. Okay, so it lost power somehow.
That's cool. Yeah, I'd thought about it after the fact. You know, after I talked to that guy, I was like, I could have just connected to one of the access points, because like they're all managed in all of the rooms. So I could have just connected to a nearby one and done a scan to see if I saw any of the SSIDs from any of the other rooms. And, you know, I would have seen nothing there, and I've been like, oh yeah, the power's off. Just for whatever reason, it didn't occur to me. But something automated connected to my monitoring, I think, would be preferable. So those are a couple of good options. I kind of like the idea of the wireless thing. It's kind of a clever idea, because you could have just it connect back into the network and you're constantly monitoring it. And if the switch is down and it goes away, yeah, that makes sense.
You know, if this and this, that's the problem.
Yeah, easy peasy. I like it. Rubber ducky debugging. Worked it out. All right, man. Let's talk about, we'll talk about my positive vendor experience, and then we can have you go on a patented Mikey rant, which has been a minute. I'm sure people miss the rants, bud. But I had an unusual positive experience with a vendor just recently. So since I started working at Red Hat, I'm working on a product that's automation, right? It's an automation product. And so, you know, the real power of automation is to be able to connect to other things and like do stuff with them. So I try and find popular products and software packages and things like that, right? And attempt to automate them. And so I reach out to a lot of vendors all the time. You'd think a big company like Red Hat would have like all of these pre-established systems, and like we would have like one of everything inside, but we don't. So like in sales, or at least on the sales side, because that's where I live, we kind of go and fend for ourselves and do our own thing. And so I'm having to establish relationships with a lot of different people. And I've noticed the bigger the vendor is, the less inclined they are to give me the time of day. And I'm sure that's by no accident. But, you know, it's like we're a pretty big company. You know, we're a really well-known name. And most of the customers I'm talking to are like Fortune 500 customers. You'd think that they would want me to integrate with their product and show a demo to like my customers, you know, so it's like potential new customers for them, seeing it do awesome, interesting stuff. But for whatever reason, it's just not the case. But I don't know, I can't remember if you were on that podcast or not, but I mentioned Batfish, which is like a configuration checking system that you don't have to actually do virtualized machines. Like you can create like a complete test network of your own and test, or you can make VMs of your own and test like configuration changes and stuff. But in lieu of that, Batfish actually will take all of your configuration backups, interpret everything it sees, and you can like test configuration changes on it. It's a pretty neat little setup. They have an enterprise version that adds a lot of cool features, and so I was like, hey, I want to use the enterprise instead of the open source version. Right? Most of the people I'm talking to are going to be the kind of folks that are going to pay for support or the enterprise version, and their enterprise adds a lot of cool features. So I reached out to him. I got this guy, Samir, really nice guy. And actually, he was the guy who put together some of the cool demos I saw online. I was like, oh, small world. I get to talk to this guy. That's neat. Anyway, they hooked me up with like a version I can install and all that stuff. And I'm going through it. And it keeps hanging up in this one spot. And so I hit up Samir, and then he connects me with like a couple, like one of the C-level guys and somebody else on their team. They're not joking around, man. And like I'm sending stuff back and forth, and they're like, let's just schedule a call. I was like, all right. So they schedule a call for late on Friday, right? Like the day before a holiday weekend. And they're sitting here on this phone conference with me, or this Zoom meeting, and we're going back and forth. Well, it turns out whenever I installed Ubuntu, it had the option to install Docker along with it because their system deploys container-based. And so I was like, yeah, just go ahead and install Docker. And apparently it does like the snap install of Docker, which is just slightly different. And even though it was showing the same version, same API version, all the things looked right, it just wasn't quite working. So just did an uninstall of that and then installed it, you know, straight from source. And within like 5 minutes, it was fixed and was going up. But I just like the fact that they like brought in the big guns. Like, probably the fact that I work at Red Hat is why I got some juice, I got some chooch factor just based on that name. But they were really nice guys, really easy to get along with, really curious about my experience, let me know how it goes, all that stuff. Obviously, they see the value of getting their stuff in front of more people, which, definitely makes sense to anybody trying to sell a product. But it was just really refreshing from getting the cold shoulder from so many different people to actually having like a real positive experience where they're like really locked in and trying to help you get the product going. And I'm not even giving them money, and you know what I mean? They're helping me out. So that was pretty cool.
Give me free stuff, and now, hey, this is wrong, and they're still totally there. That's great.
Yeah. I mean, to me that shows real like love for your product. Like you really stand behind it, you believe in it, you a lot of pride in your product. So I thought that was pretty cool. I liked it. So hopefully I get to do more with those guys. Hopefully I make a really cool, compelling demo that assists them as well. But it was just, I even told them that. I was like, man, I appreciate it. There's so many people that I just got to fight and fight and fight to get anything from them. So I really appreciate it. And they seemed surprised. I was like, it's the world we live in, I guess. I don't know. But that was my positive experience. Mikey, what's your what's your rant about here as far as vendors?
I have a variety of complaints with one of my vendors, but I'm not ready to go into my specific situations yet. I'm still hoping that they're going to pull through and do the right thing. And so kind of a pre-complaint, because this applies to so many vendors. We've gotten to an age where many vendors, in an effort to get something out the door, don't actually make sure that the product is, I don't even want, like, I don't want to say complete, I don't want to say bug-free, because, you know, in today's age, you know, nothing's ever complete, nothing's ever bug-free, because you're always doing something. You know, it's not a 1950s, you know, telco voice switch that's like, it's one and done, and it just sits there and works untouched for 40 years, or longer. You know, these things are always getting new features, but it's like the threshold at which so many vendors say, this is good enough for the public. It's just getting lower and lower and lower every single year. Like, they treat what should be beta as GA. And like ubiquity, like they haven't really done anything reliably in years. You know, Unify 6 is a dumpster fire. I think they're finally getting it under control, but it's been on fire for a while. You know, Sonar with V2, dumpster fire, and then they abandoned V1. You know, mikrotik's a pretty good exception to that. Like they let you know up front. I mean, you know, maybe they're a little too ambitious, but it's like, you know, here's our 4 different trains of firmware, and if you stick to the LTS, you're usually pretty good. There's not too much bad going on there. And of course, I had 2 or 3 others when I was stewing earlier that I just can't think of right now. But just so many vendors, it's just quick to push something out. You know, there was Cambium on their AC products. There was a lot of unhappy people right away. You know, the PTP 550, I think it was the first one they came out with. There was a lot of unhappy people right out the gate. And I don't hear anybody talk about it anymore, so I'm assuming that either everybody gave it up or they fixed it. Oh, get to work, Greg. But just so many, you know, just so many of our vendors, it's just, you know, get crap out the door and then, you know, we'll figure it out later. And that's just, it's not acceptable. Like, if you're gonna be beta, then great, be beta. If you want, like, you know, Google, you know, how long did Gmail run as beta? You know, Gmail was in beta for like 10 years. Like, it was well past production grade before they said, yeah, you know what, this is no longer beta. You know, Google Fi on the phone service, that was several years of Fi before it went from Project Fi to Google Fi to signify that it was finally production. You know, why have they, like, I mean, what do we have to do to get them to realize that that's not okay?
Well, with the Google stuff, as you said, they gave the moniker, like it is beta, or, you know, it is a project. So they, I mean, in the name of the product, it was pretty clear that you know, this thing, we're saying it's not ready for prime time, even though a lot of people were using it for prime time for a long time. It makes you wonder, do you think this is something more common to kind of the niche providers, like guys that are providing a product to kind of a smaller subset of people? You know, like maybe it fills this little gap in the market over here, it fills that little gap over here in this market, as opposed to kind of like the, you know, the big providers, like you think, you know, your Microsoft, your Googles, even though we sort of talked about them being with the beta product and stuff like that. But, you know, just the idea of releasing buggy code or whatever.
Yet, yeah, I mean, you know, I would like to get, you know, feedback from the viewers, like, you know, what vendors stand out as vendors that, you know, they really do a good job at keeping, you know, like with mikrotik LTS, you know, they do a good job of keeping a, you know, here's a solid production grade line that you can work with, and differentiating that from the, version 7 beta where it's like, hey, we don't even guarantee that your device won't catch fire. Just, here's the software, let us know what you think. I like to get feedback from the viewers, which vendors are in which camps. Or if a vendor's in more than one camp, get specific. Many vendors have many lines, and some of them are much more production grade reliability, than others. And they change over time. Some product lines used to be pretty rock solid, and then they've kind of wavered. So I like to get some of that feedback so then we can try to figure that out. Obviously, we're not likely to get, I guess, there are some really big dogs in our space, Cisco, Juniper, Arista, people like that. But, maybe we can try to draw some groupings with these vendors or vendor product lines to try to figure out if it's the bigger, more general versus the more niche. How does that... Because really, like, in our space, once you leave Google Hangouts, decided to start doing stuff. Speaking of beta products, it's gone away. In our space, even the biggest vendors in our space, they're still niche players, unless they are a juggernaut, So, but, let's try to figure that out, Let's get some feedback on that. Plus, that helps us with our videos, because then we get people commenting. Shows up. And kind of a tangent off of that, abandonware. Like, how many vendors are still charging you for a service that they've abandoned? Or a product line that, while they've not given an end of life, determination, have stopped doing anything for? Like, that also isn't okay. Like, you can't just die and not tell us.
Yeah, I guess.
Now, if the company actually dies, like, if the company bankrupts and disappears, then, whatever, you're screwed anyway.
That kind of makes me think of like open source versus closed source products, right? So like with open source, there's no guarantee. Like, you don't know if it's going to continue in development tomorrow. Like if everybody decides that, they're done with the project. And I've seen tons of open source stuff just kind of slowly, wither on the vine, and then, nobody's touched it in forever, and then it just disappears into the ether. But I guess with open source, there's kind of that expectation that there are no guarantees. Whereas if you're going to a vendor and you're buying a product, it just feels like, hey, this thing will have support. Although, unless they guarantee you support for some amount of time, it's the same thing, right? That's like when you get a job, there's no guarantee that they're not going to fire you tomorrow. So.
Sure, but like, if, like that makes more sense for like one-time purchase type things. Like, I bought a piece of hardware. I'm not still not excited by the idea, but it's more understandable that eventually they stop doing it. Although, be transparent. Tell us, hey, we're not going to develop this anymore.
Just come right out and say it, as opposed to just stop adding features or fixing bugs or whatever.
Yeah, like, just, as opposed to the just, stop, like, because so many things have been, there's still these bugs, there's still this feature that, tweak a little way, then they just say, okay, yeah, we'll be on it. And then years go by, and then, like, there's not just that feature hasn't been released, but, like, there's no new there's no new versions at all. So it's like, okay, well, now what do I do? That's one thing, but like if you're paying for like a subscription service, like at no point does it ever cool that they stop fixing it. Like because like that's it's a perpetual thing. That's the whole point of software as a service. The reason why I'm not paying for the software up front and sticking it on a server locally and moving on with is because you are supposed to be maintaining this. At least that's what they tell us. That's why you pay now, is because we have to do all these things for maintenance. But a lot of vendors don't. I'm not just trying to single anybody out. Like, there are multiple vendors I can think of off the top of my head that have done this, but they just stop supporting something. So yeah, so I guess kind of some feedback there, from our viewers. Is it the same companies that are pushing out crappy code as production and abandoning old stuff, or is it different groups of companies, or big versus small, or is it new companies versus old companies?
I'm curious if
like
if a vendor that was doing software as a solution product for you, and they said, hey, in 10 months this is going to be EOL, we'll still sell it to you, but we're not going to develop anymore. You'd be okay with that?
See you later.
Well, I mean, unless you had like a lot of your eggs in that basket, I guess you probably wouldn't want to jump ship too fast.
Well, I mean, I didn't even know I had 10 months to leave. Because it's not just the fact that, like, oh, this has the features I like, so I'm okay. No, like, security. And, like, there's there's an exploit in whatever. And, I think most of them have been pretty good about that sort of thing. But it's just like, if you've given up, let me know you've given up.
Yeah. Well, even then, how much would you trust a product if they say it's EOL, but we'll continue to do security updates on it? If they're not actively developing this thing, how much would you trust them to really, take care of it and make sure that it's being maintained in the right way?
Slightly more than if they said, yeah, no, we're just not going to do anything. Because at least then, if you make enough noise about, hey, there's CVE whatever, in, Apache web server, fix it. But yeah, just disappearing, it's not cool.
That's not cool. All right, man. Well,
did have one more thing. It's a tangent off of that.
All
also,
right, what do we got?
Most of it's still the same train. Incomplete products and services.
I think incomplete's okay as long as they don't promise you that feature or function and it just doesn't exist. I think that's okay.
Well, like, the definition of complete will vary. But, like, again, there's a lot of products that, like, they, or services where, and it's easier to notice this when they release new versions. Because it's like, it's one thing if it's a feature that they've never had. They've never had native Let's Encrypt support. Okay, well, you know what? That's annoying, but it's not the end of the world. But, like, if you had Let's Encrypt support in version 74, in version 75, you're like, no, I'm not going to have that anymore. Like, or, like, not that they don't have it, but, like, it's not there yet. We're waiting on it. Like, it's okay in beta. Not okay for production. For those big hitters, I mean, obviously, I don't expect 100% feature parity, but it's like, again, so many things from so many vendors, hardware, platform, or, platform software, whatever as a service. So many of them are doing, when they do a new, Ubiquity's camera line. I mean, that's every time there's a new one, it's a ground up rewrite, and it takes them until the very end before they integrate all the features of the old one, if they ever do. That's just one example of every time someone rewrites something, they don't. Feature parity is nowhere near the top of the list of, major feature parity, I should say. You know, I don't expect everything.
I have a feeling I know what you're talking about when you're saying that.
But I mean, you know, I don't mean this about any one, you know, one entity is driving my current passion. Yes, but you know, there are so many examples of it, and I'm trying not to, you know, even though I did several times, you know, I'm trying not to like pin it on any one company because so many of them are guilty of it. And so that it's just, you know, also not cool, you know, because so many times I've seen in these different threads for different manufacturers, you know, people saying, you know, the new thing is not complete, the new thing is not reliable, the new thing is not whatever. You know, I'm not moving to the new thing until I'm happy with the new thing. And then the vendors, you know, drop support for the old one, or they, you know, force you to move or whatever. And it's just, you know, a lot of people are just, they end up leaving. And it's like, I'm not, you know, obviously I'm looking for things that help me, but also they help my vendors. Like, if I know that lots of your customers will leave you if you force their hands, I want my vendors to be successful. So I don't want all of these other companies to leave, because I want my vendors to have their money too. So
right.
that way then I get longevity, I get, you know, so it's not just me being self-centered, whine, me. It's like, you know, I want you to be successful too.
Yeah, so you continue to sell me the products that I love and enjoy. Yeah, makes sense to me.
And a lot of people, they're just, it seems like a lot of them are just chasing the new people that really don't know anything. You know, it seems like a lot of the complaints are coming from the veterans, and the new guys like, oh, this is awesome. Yeah, because you don't know what you're doing, B, you know, what they've already done in the past. You know, the company has demonstrated that they'll do something, and then they stop, and it's like, well, you know, that's going to be more infuriating to a veteran of that platform or whatever than a new guy.
Yeah, for sure.
Because the new guy didn't even know.
Yeah. Or also say the new guy on the new whatever, they develop process and procedure around the features that exist there, right? Since they didn't know any different, you know, they're, I guess, spared that pain because they just didn't know that thing was even an option prior, and they've made some workaround to plug whatever that hole was.
Sure. Yet, you know, or they never knew that was a thing they should be doing. Like, you know, it's not even something they're doing a different way. It's just something that they've never done, and they don't know that, hey, I should be doing this. So yeah, you know, that's kind of not cool as well, I guess, you know, taking advantage of the new guys.
Yeah. I don't know what else to say there. You're dancing around your very specific problem a whole lot, and at some point, I assume we may or may not talk about it. So it's like I don't even know what to say. Do you have anything else on this?
No. You know, we can step over the eggshells and move on to something else.
Well, what I'm curious about is this is gonna.
For now,
I should get this edited and released on July 4th, right? So it's America Independence. What are you gonna be doing to celebrate?
Well, tomorrow, which would then be today if it's release day.
Yeah.
Then my wife's family's coming over, a bunch of grilling. There's always too much stuff. There's always too much food. like I don't mean, like, you know, I know the whole menu's in Google Calendar, but for Memorial Day, there's like 10 people, and we had like 12 or 15 like good thick like 3rd pound hamburgers.
Nice.
And about that many hot dogs.
Nice.
And about that many either brats or Italian sausages, I forget which.
Nice.
And both of those were, quarter-pound plus items.
Woo.
The brats, brats sausages, they didn't have a label, but the hot dogs were quarter-pound as well. There was 8 to 10. It was smaller fish, but 8 to 10 fish that we smoked.
Nice.
I forget if there's another meat item or not, but that's just the meats.
All right. It just sounds like you had a lot of leftovers, so I'm curious why you're complaining so much.
I thoroughly enjoy the leftovers, but preparation can sometimes be stressful. Oh, there's also, I think, 8 half racks of ribs.
Nice.
So it's just like stupid amount of food.
There's some grilling fools, man. We never make that much.
Yeah, and it's just like 10 people. Like, it's not like I'm feeding an army. It's just like 10 people.
This year, everybody's kind of spread all over the place for us, so we're just going to be kind of doing our own thing here. Do hamburgers, hot dogs. I think we're going to do a steak or two for the wife and kids. And then I like doing hot dogs where you take like a bamboo skewer, you shove it through the hot dog, like, lengthwise, like all the way through it. And then you take a knife and you cut it and you spin it like in a spiral. And you pull it out on the skewer like a slinky, and then you grill it that way. Then when you put it on your hot dog, or on your hot dog bun, it gets crispy kind of in all the places. And that's one of my favorite parts. But then it holds all of your condiments really well, right? Because it's got all those spiral openings in there.
Right, so as you don't bite into it, and the whole pile of relish just falls on your lap.
Yeah. Only half the pile. So it gives you a little bit more, get a little more bite. But it I don't know, it's just something about the way it kind of crisps up all the edges and everything. Man, it's tasty. Can't wait. Of course, every time we grill, it rains, and it's been raining for the last 2 months straight. So we're in monsoon season anyway. So it's very fitting.
Sure. It one of the things I know that we'll have tomorrow is grilled chicken. A few weeks ago, I apparently grilled some chicken well, and I'm not afraid of the grill, but I'm not like some Uber grill guy. Like, I go to Google and I type how to grill chicken, and then I look for 3 or 4 or 5, 6 pages, and okay, that's the one I like. I'll go with that one. Of course, this particular time, my wife was mad at me, so she was not participating in helping me figure out what it is that I should be doing. And I was like, I saw one of the instructions was for involved indirectly heating it on the grill, because chicken tends to dry out and burn at the edges and things like that if you're not really careful with it. So I gave that a try. And it took forever, but it was some of the juiciest chicken I've ever had. So I did it again last week, and a bit more careful about different things this time. And it was even better. There was less items that had little crisps at the edge. Because at the end, you end up turning it up so that you actually put some grill marks on it, and kind of harden some of the edges. But that's one of the things that I must be doing it reasonably well, because this will be the 3rd time within 60 days I've done it, and I've never did it before.
Hey, rock and roll, man.
So thank you, Google, for Google and LCD display thermometers, so that it says do this until 150. So I just poke it in, just wait for 150, and then do the next step. It's cooking is so easy. just
once again,
have
Google
a recipe.
provides.
Have a recipe, whether it's from Google or a friend or something. Have a recipe. Do what it says.
Yeah, I can't motivate myself to cook. I'm just, I used to do it a lot, but man, I don't know. I just kind of fallen out of it. I need to come back around. I need to start doing it some more, because I actually used to enjoy it. I liked kind of experimenting a little bit, adding a little of this, adding a little of that. and come up with some interesting recipes. So I'm also a little bit more adventurous than everybody else in the house. So I kind of am discouraged from cooking because like I'll add garlic until I can taste it, and then that's all anybody else can taste. So it's, you know, it's kind of a bad combination there for me.
Sure. Yeah. And so, you know, I guess we have a pretty good combination in this house, and that other than like a few things, I'll eat anything. Or at least try anything. You know, I may add something else to the list I don't like, but you know, I'll try anything.
You give it a day in court. I like it.
And, yeah. And then, you know, Kate loves to cook, and you know, a lot of it's recipe based, but then a lot of it is, well, I don't really like the way they do that, so I'm gonna do something different. And like that's not something I could ever do. It's like I do exactly what it says, and if it sucks, I don't know, I did what it said.
It's not my fault.
But you know, she can take a recipe and I don't like that part. I like the rest of it, but I don't like that part, so I'll change that. Or like, you know, she'll look at like a pile of like raw ingredients, like, well, I can make this out of it, and I'm like, okay, like I could go find a recipe then that tells me how to use those, but like I could never be like looking at a pile of disparate things and be like, I could make this and I only need this much of each of those things to do it. Like I don't know, I'd put them all into a bowl and get some big pile of slop is what I'd end up with, because I wouldn't know how much. I don't know, salt. I have a container of salt, put some salt in there. I don't know. Does it taste good? I don't know.
Was it seasoned to taste? Is that what they call that?
Yeah. Some people have no taste.
So long as you're still capable of tasting, unlike me, where you just add. Oh, man. Yeah. All right, man. Well, I hope you have a good 4th, and all the listeners, I hope they have or had a good 4th, because I doubt anybody's going to listen to this on Sunday. They're going to be too busy. But if these people...
Well, I guess as a tangent there, to try to solicit more viewer feedback, what cool stuff did you do? What unique things did you do for the holiday?
What stuff did you blow up with your fireworks?
Stuff did you blow up? What's, you know, great obscure thing did you cook? You know,
I'm gonna watch the Tomorrow War. That's gonna be the thing I do. Actually, I kind of started it just a little bit in there, and it's somewhat interesting so far. So I'm gonna stick it out. That's gonna be my thing. Let's see, Mikey. If people want to pause their revelry and get a hold of you out on the internet, how would you have them do that?
Patreon.com/WISP and talk to somebody else. Unless you are the vendor that I'm having problems with, then you know exactly how to contact me.
They've already blocked you on every means, or every means of communication possible so far. So I wouldn't worry about getting unsolicited calls from them. But if you want to get a hold of me, you can do that, greg@gregsoul.com. Contact us at thebrotherswisp.com. You can go to my blog, gregsoul.com, where I blog very regularly now. I'm getting back into, I don't think I'm going to, because for the longest time I was doing it one a week. I don't think I'm going to do one a week, but I'm going to try and maybe do like one every 2 weeks, something like that. So I'm going to try and keep that train rolling. Let's see what else. Oh yeah, my newest LinkedIn learning course went live. It's my 17th one, but it's actually a rebuild of the very first one I did. So if you've already seen like network, CLI, and protocols, then this is just a revamp of that. And honestly, the first one was made based off of Microsoft certification. So I kind of pulled out like old stuff that didn't make sense, like NetBEUI and stuff like that. So it's really just adding more Linux stuff. I mean, really, protocols are protocols. They haven't changed that much. So it's just adding a little tiny bit of new stuff, but a lot of new graphics. Man, I was looking at like what I delivered to them last time, and I was like, how'd you guys let me get away with this? Like, I didn't have nearly enough graphics and things and diagrams inside my stuff, but that's on them. Anyway, questions, comments.
As long as the check clears.
Yeah, I know that's right. Questions and comments, keep that stuff coming. If you guys have anything you want to specifically see, we actually are trying to line up dominoes for a couple of interesting ones for you guys. So hopefully you'll see some of that stuff come down the pipe really soon. And Mikey, thank you. All of our fellow Americans, enjoy your 4th, and talk to you guys soon.
Oh, hold on.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
What?
I should have listened in the beginning, but now we'll see if anybody's paying attention at the end. Viewers, comment if you recognize the building that is my background.
Oh, wait, I better not say what I think it is because I might be right, and I don't want to spoil it. So there you
go. Well, yeah, because if you say it,
yeah,
and then everybody else will just comment what you say.
I'll say it as soon as we stop the recording. All right, you ready to stop the recording?
I'm ready.
All right, good luck, guys. I'm gonna hit stop on everything. Stop over here.